For over 11 years now, we've been posting videos almost every week here to this channel, covering general video making things at first, but then it sort of refined. Now we're focused much more on audio. And the question is, why are we still doing this? Why do we keep doing it? Why bother? Almost nobody needs a new microphone every year. Almost nobody needs a new audio recorder every year. And in my opinion, almost nobody needs a new camera every year if you're doing things like this, making YouTube videos or other similar types of things. They last, also the audio gear lasts a lot longer than cameras and things like that. So in some ways, it's a better and long-term investment. If you spend a little bit more, perhaps, on your audio gear, you may not have to replace it for decades. So for example, today I'm using a Sennheiser MKH50 boom microphone right here. And that microphone came out, I believe, in the 1970s or 1980s. It's been in production for a long, long time. And it's still a great microphone. It's still used in lots of TV shows and movies and things like that. So that's an example there of the kind of the longevity of those things. So that calls into question again, why? Why are you doing this YouTube stuff? Honestly, I'm a little tired of gear. I have what I need. I've got piles of stuff around here as a gear reviewer. We've got so many things that I can choose from to use when I make my YouTube videos here. So the question is, which do I actually use? When I had given a choice and I have all these options in front of me, which ones do I actually find myself going back to over and over and over again? And this is specifically for the YouTube video production. For my professional work, that's a kind of a different story, although there's a good bit of overlap. But let me just kind of cover what some of those things are. And the reason I'm doing this is not to brag or show off and say, hey, look how cool I am with all my cool gear. It's more of a, hey, here's some perspective for someone who's been doing this for 11 years. Here are the things that I don't really end up using that much, and here are the things that I end up using all the time. Also, my little setup here is probably different than yours. I'm working in an unfinished basement. That's why we have a concrete wall behind us. You may be in a different situation. Everyone has a different quality expectation bar of like what's good enough in terms of your audio and video production. I get that. But if it's helpful, here's what I do. So first of all, in terms of audio recorders, I use Sound Devices MixPre 3 in 90% of my videos, unless I'm reviewing a different audio recorder. That's what this is being recorded with right now. This is MixPre 3 Series 2. It's a little bit more on the expensive side. So this one's around $1,000. And that may be overkill for what you're trying to achieve. I think I could get the same results with one of the Zoom F-Series recorders, the F3, F6, F8N Pro, or even the old F4 that they no longer produce, or even the Tascam FR AV2. So I would happily use any of those to get quality sound. Now, what about microphones? First of all, boom microphones. As I mentioned, this is the Sennheiser MKH50. That's what we're using today, and it is my go-to boom microphone. I typically use boom microphones rather than lavaliers because then I avoid a lot of the issues with clothing rustle, the time and effort it takes to set up the lavalier microphone and perhaps hide it if I'm trying to do that. There are just a lot more complications there. And then transmitting wirelessly also adds additional risk that you're going to get dropouts or whatever. Probably not an issue here in the studio, but to me, a boom microphone just makes more sense. We're also set up for it. I've got sound blankets hanging from a C-stand here, another one over there. So we're able to manage the space here in terms of acoustical quality. So a boom microphone works really, really well. You might find that a lavalier microphone is going to work better in your case because you don't have sound blankets or you're unwilling or unable to add those to your setup. For voiceover mics, I use the Rode NT1 4th generation every single day at work for Zoom calls, but also when I'm recording voiceovers for videos that we're producing at work. NT1 is my go-to. I've used some others as well. I've used the Rode NTR a little bit recently, which is kind of an exotic microphone, I would say. It's a ribbon microphone. But the one that I keep coming back to over and over again is the Rode NT1, and it's reasonably priced, incredible performance. There's also the Rode NT1 5th generation, which is both USB and XLR. I find that that's fine too. I find that the USB output sounds harsher than if I run an XLR cable out of it into an audio recorder or an audio interface. So I don't usually use the USB feature. If that's, it can work. You may need to do some EQ in post to make it sound better, but that's an option as well. Or if you just want the XLR version, the latest generation of the XLR version, there's the Rode NT1 Signature Series. It's basically an NT1 5th generation. Sorry for all the the product names, they get kind of confusing at some point, but the Rode NT1 Signature Series is a Rode NT1 5th generation without the USB capability, and it's less expensive, so that's a great one as well. Now, for live streaming, I usually use the Earthworks Ethos microphone. It's a broadcast condenser microphone. It fits my voice really, really well, and it's not terribly imposing on camera. It's got a nice long foam thing. I actually put it on an arm that sits down here. It comes just barely into the frame, maybe about up to here, and it sounds great, and it's not like some big microphone in front of my face. It's not distracting from what we're trying to talk about. It's a great mic. Now, audio interfaces. So when I am using an audio interface, a Motu M2 is really all I need. The reality is, of course, I have, for lots of reasons that we won't necessarily go into here, I do have a Universal Audio Apollo X6. That was bought for the ability to do some surround monitoring. And that's the one I often use day to day just because it's in the rack. I already got the rack. So I use that day to day. But honestly, a Motu M2 or a Scarlett 2i2 3rd or 4th generation would be fine for the things that I'm doing. And I think it could work for most creators as well. Now for work, I have a Universal Audio Apollo Solo. And it's nice because I can have a compressor running in real time on the audio interface. So that's really good for the Zoom calls and when I'm doing voiceover and things like that. So not strictly necessary for most people, but it's what I use. Now for live streams, moving on from audio gear, I do use an ATEM Mini Extreme. I have the ISO version, but I actually never use the ISO capabilities. I just needed the additional inputs. So I usually have, on my live stream, I usually need 5 inputs. So the Mini Pro is not enough. It only has 4 inputs. So that's why I use the Extreme version. And I don't really record on it, so the recording features aren't that important to me, but everything else just makes it so that I can do the show that I want to do. And it works really, really well. It's been solid. I've had that since it first came out in 2021, I think it was, and it's been working great. For audio, for live streams, as far as mixers, I use the Mackie DLZ and sometimes the Mackie DLZ XS, the smaller version. These are roughly competitors with the Rodecaster Pro 2 and the Rodecaster Duo. I have the Rodecaster Pro 2 as well. The reason I typically choose the DLZ is there are a few things. Number one, bigger screen makes it a lot easier to operate for me. Number two, the way you set them up is more intuitive to me, and it's easier for me to get to the sound I want more quickly with those than on the Rodecaster. There are more physical controls. And then finally, I really like and I use the fact that there's a master fader on the Mackie DLZ. It's sort of hidden on the. It's not straightforward on the Rodecaster Pro 2. So those are the reasons why I use it. It sounds great. It has plenty of gain for any microphone you might ever use, including a Shure SM7B. So you wouldn't need a cloud lifter or FET head or anything like that. All right, lighting. Aperture 600C Pro is my key light, completely overkill for most YouTubers. And I use it because I have it. I have it on over here with the big spotlight, not the original spotlight, but the big one. And it's bouncing off of unbleached canvas or unbleached muslin right here. And that's our key light here. I use it because I have it, because I reviewed it and Aperture sent it over to me. But if I were funding it myself, I'd probably be using an Amaran 200 XS, and that one has great color quality, really, enough output for talking head video. So to me, that would be a great one. Pairing that with the Light Dome SE, and I think most YouTubers are going to have everything they need. For rim lighting, and that's very subtle lighting over here. See that on the side of my face? That is literally just the Amaran PT 4C over here. I have it mounted with the magnets that come with it on a C-stand, and it produces this really beautiful, soft rim light. So that's what I use. What's interesting, yes, I know it has inbuilt batteries. I don't use it that way. I always have it plugged in. So, and I still would urge Amaran, please, next iteration, make it so those batteries are replaceable. Okay, cool. Next, the Amaran 150C with a spotlight, or the 300C, you could use either one, to make this color on the background. And I'm using, that's what's putting the blue on the wall. And then over here, the purple, where I have this kind of gradient that I create, That's made with a Light Panels Gemini 1x1 soft, full color RGB light. And between those two, I can do all sorts of fun stuff. I can put gobos in the spotlight over here and make patterns, or I can just go with a color gradient like this, and that does a job for me. Cameras, using the Canon C70. I know it's 4 years old. People are tired of it. They think it's ancient. It gets the job done for me. And honestly, all of the other cameras, and I watch cameras. I watch Gerald Undone. I watch these other camera reviewers, Philip Bloom. Nothing else I've seen would dramatically improve my workflow. And so I'm sticking with the C70. It's done a fine job. So that's what I'm using for making YouTube videos. If you are interested in what I use for my professional work, let me know in the comments. Maybe we can make a video about that as well. In the end, the focus should always be on the story or what you're trying to achieve, whether it's educational content, art, entertainment, whatever it is. Focus on that. If you pour your obsession into that, then get analytical and figure, okay, this is what I want to achieve. What do I need to achieve that from a gear standpoint? I think you're going to find yourself doing a lot less upgrading, a lot less obsessing over gear, and you're going to get stuff done and created. And that's the reason that we all got into this in the first place, at least most of us. Hope that was helpful. Get out there, make some great videos and some great sound. Talk to you soon.